This is Jay Michaels, and here we are again with another batch of filmmakers from this year's Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival. That's bostonsci-fi.com. This is the 47th year of Boston Sci-Fi. Really excited. I've heard some amazing stories from amazing filmmakers about, you guessed it, amazing films. And now I have a full room of people who are going to tell me all about theirs, and I'm really excited. So let's get right to it. Benjamin Myers, love your beard.
How's it going, Jay?
I'm doing great. Love beards. Love your beard. Well done. If your movie's as good as your beard, that's it. There you go. Tell me about you. Tell me about your film.
Well, yeah, for sure. Well, we're so excited to be at the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival. My film is A Lone Star Love. My name is Ben Myers, and I'm the director. And A Lone Star Love is excited to be bringing Austin to Boston. A Lone Star Love is about an Irish girl, an Austin girl that meets an Irish boy and his Viva. So we have David, who's moved to Austin, Texas to try to make a new life for himself, and he starts online dating. And he meets this lovely girl who is not about social media at all. She doesn't have any accounts. They start to hit it off, but meanwhile, David has got the newest, fanciest, not an iPhone, it's a robot in the face of a woman. It's a social media android, and it's a great new conduit to interact. And the story is kind of a Black Mirror-esque sci-fi, feels like a slice of TV. Solid 24 minutes long. It's a sumptuous featurette. It's a soundtrack-driven film, and it's all about our relationship to social media and our relationship to online dating and how being focused in online can take us away from the real world. So we hope people kind of provides an exciting little twist at the end to see how that trifecta of that romance works out.
First exciting twist is the parable of it. The people seem to fall in love with their avatars. People seem to want to click like more than actually like people. So you're taking a very nightmarish take to social media. Good for you. I live on social media and I'm ashamed of it. So I'm thrilled to hear that. Wow, that's really great. So you said you're the writer of this.
I am the director, and I'm also I have a co-writing credit. Myself and Dee Dee Walkie, who's the lead actress in the film, her first time producing, she killed it. Put together an amazing project. Ronan Culfer is the originator of the project. He's also the lead in the film. And I'm playing double duty. I do have a small part in the fourth act turn, but we're hoping people just feel like they've got a slice of Black Mirror style TV and they can enjoy themselves, maybe think a little bit about it. And it's a whole surprise because the film kind of feels like it should be a romantic comedy, but then goes off the rails.
I'm glad you did that. There's a cause of mine is elevated sci-fi or elevated horror. And it's the notion that the horror of it, it's not the B-picture horror films that we've grown up with. It's not, and I still love them. I'm sorry, the Man in the Mask on Planet Zoron. It's not that kind of film. Nowadays, it's almost like the Grimm's fairy tales. It's not about the troll. It's about getting past the troll. And so the horror, the sci-fi, is the human drama.
Absolutely, because there's something very scary about losing ourselves to technology.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Good for you. Good for you. Good luck with this. Look forward to hearing more about this. Wow. Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Very forward thinking. Andrew McGee, tell me how forward thinking you are.
Hey, Jay. Well, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm Andrew, the director, editor, and co-writer of Venus, which I hope is a very forward-thinking film, as all the best sci-fi is. So yeah, we've had an amazing festival run for the last year, and Boston is kind of the grand finale, so I can't think of a better way to end it. Yeah, so the story is it's a cyberpunk story, kind of Blade Runner inspiration, Ghost in the Shell, that kind of thing. And it's about a mother who uploads her tragically killed daughter into this stolen synthetic body, and her daughter then ends up on the run and fighting for her life in this unfamiliar body with violent capabilities and pursued by sort of the dystopian authorities, and yeah, finding her way back to her mother.
There's an interesting parable within what you're saying about being in this unfamiliar body, and when we talk about the mind, when we talk about, I won't say mental illness because that's putting it in a particular area, but the mind and how our mind interprets us and things like that. So you're making a very strong parable there. In terms of our mental understanding of each other. How about that?
That's it. Better than I could have put it.
Never. Wow. Where did you get such an idea? How did such an idea come about?
Oh, we started developing it so long ago that sort of the seed is a bit lost now in time, but we wanted to kind of tell a story which was very much about the body, and especially from the female-driven perspective, and especially in these kind of male-dominated futuristic worlds, you see kind of the backdrop of, you know, these sexy robots, and it's never really interrogated in a way that I think it could be, especially with those big questions of the relationship between the identity and the mind and the body.
It's funny you say sexy robot. It's funny how our knee jerk goes right to a visceral thing. Why don't we have a brilliant robot? What does it matter what they look like or anything like that? Someone once wrote an admonishing article about Star Trek: The Next Generation and said, why was Data a guy? Why did they have to make the robot a guy? And it's really interesting. You're taking it to a really powerful level where you're talking about male and female roles, and how automation steps into that. Even how the human mind creates the computer version of itself. Wow.
Yeah, and the kind of level about autonomy over the body and possession of the body. Like these bodies are technically property of the big evil mega corporation that develops them. And then suddenly our main character finds herself inhabiting one that's not entirely her own. It also has these violent capabilities as well that she's trying to come to terms with. So yeah, sort of a body designed for sex and violence, but it's interrogating that in a way that doesn't sort of objectify it.
Parables I'm hearing already. Really well done. Good for you. See, told you, brilliance. Can't wait to see more about your movie. Can't wait to hear all about it. Good luck with this. Welcome to Boston Sci-Fi. And welcome to Boston Sci-Fi, Nancy Cruz, who has the same background that I do. I have a background like that, and when I don't put on virtual backgrounds, I utilize that. So okay, we're kindred spirits there. Tell me about your movie.
Hi, hello everybody. I'm also want to introduce as well Anders Johnson. He's one of the producers of To as well. So we're both here in the same call. So to introduce To I'll do it very simple. It's basically kind of a message between an interaction between an sound engineer in NASA and an AE in space, is a satellite in AE. But I guess also Anders will have a better description for that. So I will introduce him as well, if he can.
Anders, welcome aboard. Tell us all about the movie.
You are mute.
Why don't you take off your mute?
And I'll try hitting the space bar
Technologically
for
perfect
once.
person. There you go.
Sure. My name's Anders Johnson. I'm a Boston-based film producer, and working on To Air with Nancy and the rest of our crew, Anthony Martinez and the writer J.M. Elliott, we tried to create something that was an intimate interaction stretched out across the universe between a human being and a artificially intelligent satellite that starts asking questions. And within that, we tried to bring about a very intimate set of very human moments taking place between technology and a person, while also integrating some stellar visual effects.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to give too much away.
You both make an interesting
try.
parable. It sort of walks with Andrew's film a little bit in the sense that it's essentially how we evolve as human beings, and how our own machines can evolve. I was binge watching the new Lost in Space series, and the robot in that. Now we all remember the original robot of Danger Will Robinson, and it was just this robot there that snarky comments, but it's becoming a human. It's becoming like a sentient being in this new series. You're taking it to a really powerful level where a machine is actually now asking questions.
Yeah, it's development basically of the machine. It's kind of it was interesting development actually. There's another thing regarding this production that we did it entirely online between 3 different time frames. So that kind of helped us as well, because it was between LA, Boston, and the UK, because I'm based right now in the UK, and the writer is in LA, and Anders and Tony and Anthony, it's in Boston. So yeah.
I think that alone, I'm being a 12-year-old again when I say this. Time zones, it's amazing. We're all in different time zones right now as we're speaking to each other. We've grown accustomed to this, and oh yeah, of course, the LA time, and oh yeah, he's over there and whatever. But it still fascinates me. I still sit here and go, wow, it's evening where you are? Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So you're taking that childlike fascination with something like this and expanding it right out there. Wow, good for you. Good for you. Really interesting. Yours is one of those movies, I call it the buckle up movie, where you better sit there and hold on and really concentrate on what's going on, because this is a deep thought involved. Well done. Well done. Looking forward to it. Best of luck to you. Best of luck. Nick Verdi, you're in the dark. We see you, but the light behind you. Let me guess, your movie is this dark movie.
It's really extremely bleak. Yes, I was kind of
there
very
you go.
shocked.
Okay, there you go.
I know, this is my half, my Western Massachusetts half, basement, old barn apartment I live in now. So it's, a hipster falling apart situation here. But so I'm going to try not to ramble. My name's Nick Verdi. I am the writer, director, and I am the star of this movie, although I acted in a different name because it didn't want to seem like the Brown Bunny or something and get hate like Vincent Gallo would get or something, so but now, I just don't, it's too hard to fake this at this point that I just am telling the truth, but basically it's about, we shot this from January to March 2021 over like 6 days. It was during COVID, and we were trying to get anything made. We were psychotic trying to get a movie made. And I was like, the only way I feel safe making a movie is if I do one of those Bad Lieutenant, Harvey Keitel, or Angst, that slasher movie, or just one of those movies where it's a guy and you're following the guy the whole time. So it's forgiven. What people hate is that it's a slow movie about a guy the whole time, but it's like, that was the possibility. If we do one of those movies, we can make it. So the movie is about this guy who's been living alone in Boston for too long, and he very much less like a serial killer type and more like a school shooter type. After living in his mind for too long, he gets this idea that he's going to kill every white man in Massachusetts, which is his self-hate, metastasized, coming to be this hatred that everyone like me is, I know how bad I am, therefore everyone else is obviously that bad too, that's like me, and we have to go, we're all the bad ones, So he goes home and with this whole fantasy in mind that he's going to do this, and just one step after the other, totally messes up, and reality keeps biting him back, and he doesn't accomplish much of anything except self-destructing the whole time. If that's
sort of like a sci-fi Taxi Driver.
Yeah, well, it's strange. There's probably 5 minutes of the movie that could feel like a sci-fi movie, but it's very much a horror. It's the attempt was to be something like an early Wes Craven, Last House on the Left, exploitation.
Oh, excellent.
Screech at society, reflecting society back at a time of violence and human cruelty and whatnot.
I give you so credit, and so does JJ Pollock. He's been watching your interview and going, oh, so something tells me he's taking notes. But I give you so much credit. The monster doesn't have to be otherworldly, as much as those are my favorites. The monster's us. When you get down to it, even in your customary monster movie, there's usually a nefarious person who awakens the creature. So the real monster is usually right there in the chair next to you.
Definitely.
So I really give you credit for a very brave sort of film. Yeah, it's really bleak, yes, but something tells me it's so much worth watching. That's great. Good for you. Good luck with this. Wow, bravo on your bravery. Well done. Well done.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
JJ Pollock, tell me about your movie.
It's called Jennison. I wrote, directed, and edited it. It's definitely bleak as well, maybe not to quite that extent, but it's definitely dark. If any of you have read The Forever War by Joel Haldeman, it's like a ripoff of that, so that's like a quick way of explaining it. But for those of you who haven't, it's about relativity and time dilation, and what would happen if people went off to war, and because of the distances involved and the speeds and getting there, time moved at a different rate for them. And so what would it be like for them to go off and then come back to a civilization that is totally different from their own? So it's obviously a very obvious metaphor for, our own soldiers and what it's like for them coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, and, the world's changing and kind of leaving them behind. So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, I remember 7 channels and no remote control. So I'm going to say immediately I thought of Vietnam, because before Vietnam, we glorified war. Korea, while it was a police action, it still had its level of victory, if you will, but Vietnam had no victory. And the soldiers came back to a world that didn't even like what they did, which was horrible, which was not their fault. So you're really hitting something deep in terms of a war parable.
Yeah, well, I wish I could take full credit, but that book actually is based, it's written by a Vietnam veteran. So it's very much, he's the one who came up with the concept, and I'm just trying to expand on it a little bit. But yeah, he had a first-hand experience with it.
There you go. Good for you. Wow. When you talk about time zones in it, when you talk about time change, so you're saying that when you're at war, it's a different time. Time is a different movement.
Yeah, I mean, it's never fully explained in a short, because you only got 11 minutes to try and cram in as much plot as possible. But,
suspension of disbelief, of course.
Right, but in my head, it's they're traveling at such great speeds to get to these far off places that, and this is a real phenomenon. Time moves at a different rate if you go fast enough. The closer you get to the speed of light, the faster time moves around you, I guess, or the slower it moves for you, however you want to put it. And so there have been a bunch of sci-fi novels and movies that have kind of explored what would happen, to these people who have to travel fast enough to get to these places. What's society going to be like around them when they get there?
Good luck to you. Congratulations. I say this to everyone, and while pointing at you when I say this, you take these themes that are in our hearts and souls and minds. You take these things that gnaw at us about the world around us, and adding the fantastic to it, you allow us to ruminate, you allow us to immerse, you allow us to think about these things without thinking about these things. We don't need to hear about racial injustice. We don't need to hear about these things and make us, we don't need to hear about it bluntly. You give it to us softly, but it's like thunder. You allow us to think about racial injustice. You allow us to think about war. You allow us to think about poverty, about losing our souls to machinery, without us saying, oh no, people don't want to, my wife is an animal advocate, and she'll put up things about save these animals, and people don't want to click like on her profiles because they don't want to look at those poor animals. So many of us are wanting to look away. So many of us are wanting to look away, and you don't let us, because you sneak up behind us and we think we're watching a sci-fi flick, and instead you're teaching us something very valuable. Thank you so much for a war parable. Really, really clever. Excellent. Good luck to you on that one. Andreas Z. Simon. What a cool name. That's the name of somebody who works in the fantastical realms. That's exactly that. Tell us about your movie.
Yeah, and the name is fake. Yeah. At least the C is fake. Yeah, my name is Andreas Z. Simon, but you can call me Simon. And I wrote, directed, and produced the movie, and now it gets complicated, with the title T gleich E durch X zum Quadrat, or in English, T equals E divided by X square. Yeah, something like this. I'm sorry about that. We call it simply a text film ourselves, so to make it easier, or just text. It's 82 minutes long, and tells the story about a film editor stuck in a time loop. But basically, it's a fairy tale about guilt, decisions, and time itself. And it includes a mermaid, a clown, a cowboy, and a bunch of time traveling. That's it.
Somewhere Rod Serling is going, I didn't think of that. That is great. Oh my God, where do I begin? How did this idea forge in your head? How did this gestate? What was the seed of this idea?
Basically, I'm a TV producer here in Germany. I do children television, and I feel myself stuck in a time loop most of my life because everything I do, it repeats itself over and over again. There is this basic situation when the movie starts. It's just this guy in his editing suite, and then some people come in and they want to see what he did and to judge this or whatever. And this is such a scenario that happened to me my whole life. And yeah, maybe that was just something I needed this movie to come over this also.
Had me with children's television. Wow. It's amazing. Your mind is geared to the fantastic because of your audience, if you will. And you just took it to such an extent. And the fact it's born of frustration, you needed to cleanse.
I was not aware of this when I wrote the book, the screenplay, but I'm aware now because I've seen the movie a lot of times, and I realized, oh shit, this is my life. Now I know it. Oh.
There are no accidents. There are no accidents. Just as I said, you're creating a parable for us so that we can address serious matters without addressing serious matters. And the most serious matter for you at this moment is your life. And somehow it became this amazing premise of a movie. Laugh at me, pardon my ignorance. English with, is English subtitles or is it English?
English subtitles. It's in German.
Okay,
yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. You know, I have to tell you for a moment, because your name is so theatrical, I thought you were putting on the German accent for a moment. I thought in the middle you're going to go, yeah. Okay, now I'm from Milwaukee, and so let me tell you about my movie. Really interesting, really fascinating. So we're getting this really fantastical element, and we're getting it from an international thought pattern. Okay, wow. Okay, this is one to sit down and watch. Thank you so much. Wow, good luck with this. And may your life be easier, and you don't have to make movies with clowns and cowboys in outer space anytime soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Anytime. Anthony Tibaldi. We Are Living Things. Thank you. Now there's the title right in front of me. Tell us about your movie, Antonio.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everybody. Yeah, my film is called We Are Living Things, and it's about two illegal aliens, undocumented workers in the US. They start their story in New York, and he's a guy that is crossed the border illegally from Mexico, and he's working in a recycling plant, and he meets a mysterious Chinese young woman, and their story becomes a connection between two people, because very early on they realize that they both, for very deep emotional reasons, strongly believe in the existence of external intelligence or UFOs. And when they realize that they have this connection, and they know there's only the two of them, they begin to protect one another against the world, and they eventually have to flee New York, and they travel across the country to Arizona, where they try and find rock formations where they can pursue their kind of dreams and maybe be saved.
So we have two kinds of alien in this.
Yes.
Oh,
well, I mean, it's ironic. When I was starting the movie, I said, what is this movie about? I said, it's about two illegal aliens who believe in aliens. I mean, it sounds like a comedy, but and the film has some ironic moments. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it is definitely not a comedy. And it's, it mixes a lot of different genres of films, I think, because it certainly is ultimately a love story, but not in your obvious way, because it's two people who realize they are made for one another because they believe in the same thing, and there are only two believers in the whole planet. They've never met anybody else who believes in the same way. Some people say, yeah, I think UFO exists, but it's a bit like with nonchalance, this is different. This would be like if your religion was that, and you realize, well, there's nobody else who believes in this. So that's the idea.
So you're giving us a parable of love and fear.
Yes.
Because the word alien, when we say alien, we in the sci-fi world, we say alien and we think enemy alien coming from another planet. But there are so many ignorant souls that hear alien,
Right.
and what they think of people down here who
Right.
have that label. And then it's the love story that as much as you might be the outliner, as much as nobody is like you, there is somebody like you and you can find them.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's that's the film. And so the film goes from kind of a very metropolis beginning with New York. Even New Yorkers, I've lived here for 20 years, but a lot of hardcore New Yorkers, when they see the movie, say, "Where do you shoot this?" Because I think we did 4 months of location scouting, and we found pretty amazing locations in New York that were kind of really metropolis inspired. And then the film travels across the country. And when we were shooting, we were lucky we got into a major snowstorm, and half the crew wanted to quit and not shoot, and we still shot. So we got this just wonderful, free production value. And then you end up in the opposites, kind of landscape than the beginning, which is the desert. And so we shot this in the real desert. It was just pretty amazing.
Again, now we're talking the opposites again. You're talking about, the polar opposite of alien and the polar opposite of location, where, that you're, wow. So there's a lot of metaphors within your piece. Okay, very cool. Very cool. Sounds again like the human condition as told fantastically. Excellent. Well done. Well done. Good luck with this. I hope people watch films like this and think to themselves, not all aliens are aliens. So I hope the message comes across the universe from your film to all of our psyches. Well done. Best of luck with this. Navi, how do we pronounce your name?
It's Navi.
Navi, tell us about your film.
Well, first, I'm in Boston myself. So my film is called Counterpart. It's an animation about, it's like, all right, I always like bungle this up every time I try to explain it because it's so, it just.
Uh-oh.
No, like I don't know, like I animated it, but like not straight ahead. I made the story up kind of like as I went. I knew what I wanted to incorporate, but basically I have my main character and he has his doppelganger in this alternate universe. And so the main character is in this original universe just hanging out, and he keeps seeing kind of like messages or like glimpses of his doppelganger, because his doppelganger is kind of like reaching through to this like original like dimension reality. And eventually the doppelganger pulls through the main character into this alternate universe by drowning him in his cereal. And in this other universe, it's this super like surreal, colorful, like bright land. It's kind of like this land with all these giants, like colorful giants that are stuck inside these smaller houses. Well, they're like life-size houses, but these giants are like so big and they're crumpled up and like sticking out, like legs are getting kicked out the doors and the windows, and they're stuck there. And so the original character is kind of exploring this world, and he's just like, I don't know what's going on. And then he realizes that his doppelganger is trying to kill him or something, like we're not sure. But what he ultimately wants is, the doppelganger wants to take the main character's place in the original reality. So he's trying to swap spots. But it kind of doesn't end up working out that way. And I don't really want to spoil the ending. But the main character runs into some snags in this alternate universe, and it doesn't end well.
Tell me what goes through a filmmaker's head on such a thing, because animation, right there, we're talking doppelganger. You're talking about alternate realities, another doppelganger. Now we're talking about large and small. Yet again, you're talking separatist. And you're talking how one doppelganger wants to kill the other. So we're getting into the psyche of one is acceptable and one is not. However you look at it, what created this in your mind to make you create this as a film?
Honestly, like the style and design of it, because my favorite thing to like draw and illustrate is like fingers and hands. Like they're my favorite thing to animate, draw, whatever. So I really wanted these like giant creatures with limbs. I knew I wanted to incorporate them, And these characters aren't necessarily evil in this other dimension either. They're just kind of stuck. They're just placeholders. They're stuck in these houses. And I just really like designing those, so I wanted to build a world around that.
So it's interesting. So you wanted to build another world. So even you wanted to create another doppelganger, if you will. Wow. You're the first animation I've spoken to, the first animator so far this season. I think animation is another thing. If we're talking about advancement, animation has become almost become an alien. It's become an alien, a hostile alien to us, because it really, the how it pushes people. It's like us real people, we better train our voices, because we're going to be the voice of these animations now, as powerful as they become. I really look forward to seeing it. I love animation. I love, I call it cartoons because I'm an old guy and that's the word I'm using, but I love the animation. I love the fact that you see these pages come alive, if you will. Best of luck with this. I'd love to hear what the audience thinks of it, because you're making real strong messages about acceptance and about the dual side of human beings. We're hearing this now with AI, we're hearing this now with social media, and you're taking it to another level. So I really look forward to hearing what the audience has to say about your doppelgangers. Well done. Best of luck to you. Demetrius, tell me about your film.
Hello. First, I just want to thank you, Jay, for interviewing all of us, and it's just such an honor to be here. My film, Lightning's Echo, is about a grief-stricken man who, in an act of desperation, captures lightning in a jar, and by doing so kind of locks away all of his grief and past emotions into that bottle. And throughout the film, he is forced to confront what he has sealed away and does not want to talk about. And I'm the writer, director, and one of the producers on the short film. It's about a 7-minute project.
So he's locking away what that he doesn't want to talk about?
Well, I don't want to spoil the film, but there's some grief, there's some depression. You know, it's kind of shedding a light on how the human condition is that we all have these things that we carry around with us that people might not know about. And the easiest thing to do would be to just, you know, bottle up, put it on a shelf and forget about it, but that's unrealistic and not feasible. So it kind of explores that hidden side of humanity that we choose not to share with people.
Another deep message where it's not about the troll, it's about getting past the troll. How many of us immediately, and I'm speaking rhetorically, how many of us would just say, oh yeah, take my grief, my misery, my sadness, my paranoia, my worry, my this, my that, put it in a bottle so I don't have to worry about it. But what happens to us when that happens? You do it all in 7 minutes?
Yeah, you can. It's a wild ride. You can find out what happens to Ben in this 7-minute journey with his feelings. And it's, yeah, it's just a fun, wild, dark, emotive ride.
I really get a kick out of the really short film like that, the 7-minute, because it's always a surprise. You know, I say to myself, yeah, all right, yeah, I got time. I'm going to just watch this really quick before I go into my meeting. And I'm exhausted when it's over, all of 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes of it, because it's this amazing parable. It's this amazing story. And right there, what you said, I can't imagine it being 7 minutes. I have to see your film just so I could see, okay, how do you do that in 7 minutes? Really powerful piece, really great thought. You don't have to answer it. I'm just are you one of those people who've always said, I wish I could just take all my miseries and just put it away?
Sure. I mean, but who hasn't, I guess? I mean, we all kind of crave that we don't have to deal with certain things in our lives, you know?
I think if you and Andreas got together and you're able to take all of his miseries that made him do a movie about cowboys and clowns and everything like that and just put it in a bottle, he'd go back to kids TV and just be so happy. He'd be fine.
Exactly. But just a shade of himself. He wouldn't be his full self, you know?
I told you, you're all very smart people, period. Brad, tell us all about your film. Take us home, Brad.
All right. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to meet everybody. I'm looking forward to being able to check out all your films as well. My name is Brad. I'm the writer and director of Moore's Void, a short film. It's a bit of a psychological sci-fi noir. Now it's about 15 minutes long. It takes place moments after, I'll keep the grief train going. It takes place moments after a grieving mother discovers at her son's funeral that weeks before his passing, which was expected, he was ill, but she discovers that he had registered with a controversial life insurance clinic. So the film follows her as she approaches to confront this place. One, to figure out if it's true, what it is that they're offering. The idea being proposed, or at least what's known about in the public, is that they offer to copy and store an individual's consciousness for the sake of the future. And it's playing off of the Moore's Law effect of, we don't have the ability to give you a body yet. We can't do it, but we'll happily take your money as a down payment to eventually give it to you way down the road. And in her mind, she thinks it's just a place that's preying off of the grief of those who are dying or near death, just trying to take their money, and it's purely snake oil. But she wants to know if that's the angle. Did they take advantage of her son? And if not, does she have the ability to actually maybe talk with them? And amongst all this is the complications of what kind of the cliche trope of how corporations can sometimes get involved, of all the human drama, of what the promise of sci-fi, of what technology can give you with this. And there's the complications of contracts. What do you sign when this sort of thing, when you're signing up for it? Are you essentially signing yourself for indentured servitude if you're signing something you can't afford and you have to pay off if you're given a body down the road? But yeah, it's a heavy drama with big sci-fi tropes involved, but it's mainly a conversation between an individual who has every right to be upset with many questions, and with a representative for a company that might believe in the good that they think that they're offering people, or they might just be a used car salesman.
Saying this so blasé. Oh yeah, it's about, but what I'm actually touching upon is actually the ultimate fear beyond anything else that we can even think of, aliens or whatever, is the fear of death.
It's how we deal with grief, because it's something that everybody, when they're promised this nugget of like, oh, there's a possibility with, you know, a bit of cash, you might be able to preserve yourself down the road, but you know, what complications when there's other people involved? What are they getting out of it? What are they getting from you? Is it true, or are you being swindled? All these other elements. But
there was a Black Mirror that had a sort of like a riff on the fear of death theme as you're talking, where you can, you know, they were able to copy someone through automation, and you know, it was no longer them, was basically their thoughts. So there's so much that goes into the fear of death, and thus a movie about conquering that fear by conquering death in some way. And it just gives me a chuckle, because you're just yeah, it's about this. You remind me of a young Wes Craven, because he was that way. He was this quiet guy. Oh yes, this is a movie about a child molester who has knives on his fingers, and it just he was so quiet in telling these horrifying stories. Terrible question to ask. Did this stem from your own fear of disappearance?
Well, I mean, I think there's something innate in everybody when you're dealing with your own sense of mortality. It's what's attractive about well, a lot of narratives, it's dealing about your place in the world and what you can bring to the table. And I think it's something that commonly everybody thinks about at one point or another, which is what makes it an attractive story, to see what this can play with and what direction it's going to go. But the starting point for this was, it's a setup for a world building piece for a much bigger story of what happens to those who have signed it and what happens after the fact. But when you have 15 minutes and a budget, you want to start somewhere, and you start with the common nugget that all your characters have in common of visiting this place and the questions that they all shared and had in common.
You give me a moment to pause. I'm sitting here thinking fear of death, but you're also taking it to another level. You're thinking, okay, are we worthy of not disappearing? Who are we? What are we? And you use the great expression, what do we bring to the table that should keep us here? So it's not so much the fear of death, it's the justification of life that you're offering us with your film. And you're doing it all in 15 minutes on a limited budget.
15 minutes, somewhat limited budget. I was fortunate. I'm an assistant director here in Toronto, so I did some tappings with friends to help network some good stuff. So, but yeah, still limited.
Excellent, understood. It wasn't $2 million, so I think you're there. You go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This is I'm even more excited now about Boston Sci-Fi and about what's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, to see these and so many other films, you go to bostonsci-fi.com. It starts February 16. If you go onto that website, you can order tickets. You can see it live. There's virtual events. There's cosplay. There's parties. There's contests. There's the whole works. There's ray guns. For 47 years, Boston Sci-Fi has been handing us the future on film. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to your movies. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Great to meet you all.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.